Good afternoon. My name is Tim Carrier, Young Adult Services Manager with Jmrl. On behalf of Jefferson Madison Regional Library, welcome to the virtual program, Become a Professional YouTuber, the tips and tools of the trade to get started. Thank you so much for joining us today, and please do remember to keep checking jmrl.org for a complete and frequently updated schedule of programs for all ages. And don't miss the Jmrl Summer Challenge, open to all ages. Participants earn points, badges, and prizes by reading and completing other challenges all summer long. And attending today's event is one way to get points that will go toward earning a free book prize. More detail is at jmrl.org. This event and all JMRL events have been made possible by the incredible and generous support of the Friends of the Library. This program is also being recorded for possible inclusion on the Jmrl YouTube channel. So if you'd like to rewatch this program, or you have a friend who couldn't attend, barring any major technical issues, we'll try to get this posted in the next few days. For anyone curious, the mics have been muted for today's event. We ask that if you have any questions during the course of the program, please enter them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And toward the end of the program, we'll take time for a Q&A and try to cover as many questions as possible. However, if there is a pressing question during the course of the discussion, relevant to the topic being addressed at that particular moment, please don't hesitate to ask, and we'll look for the first available opportunity to address it. Additionally, the closed caption transcript has been enabled for this program. You can activate the feature by selecting Live Transcript at the bottom of your screen and enable subtitles. Please note that despite the prompt you might receive, the ability to save or download the transcript is not enabled, and also the transcript is not perfect. And now, it's my great pleasure to introduce our speaker. Josh Bycer is a game industry analyst with more than 10 years experience discussing video game design and the industry itself. Along with writing and making videos, he's interviewed game developers around the world. He's given presentations in schools and libraries and at conventions aimed at spreading awareness about the craft of game design and what it means to work in the game industry. He's the author of 20 Essential Games to Study and Game Design Deep Dive Platformers. So please join me in welcoming Josh Bycer of GameWisdom.com.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you everybody for tuning in, whether you're watching this live or if this is up on the YouTube channel. But as Tim just said, welcome to Becoming a YouTuber, the tips and tools of the trade to get started. So we're going to be discussing what it's like to get started on YouTube and figure out what kind of content you would like to make and what are some of the important software and hardware you can start looking at, as well as learning from all the mistakes I've made over the past, I think we're up to about 6 years now, so you can avoid them yourself. Now, with Game Wisdom, as Tim said, I focus on game design and game development. And I started my YouTube channel back in 2016. I originally was going to be on Twitch, but I found that Twitch wasn't exactly best for the kind of content I wanted to make. And since then, I've been all in on YouTube. And at the moment, I am just under 9,000 subscribers. In terms of how YouTube kind of calculates successes and trends, it starts at going to 100, then 1,000, then 10,000. Then I believe the next one is either 50 or 100,000, and then 1 million. So not too close to those other ones, but just hitting 10,000 or even just hitting 1,000 is a huge goal or a huge thing to do, especially when you are starting out and you don't have any kind of major presence otherwise. So the question is, why do this? And this has certainly changed a lot in the past about, I'd say maybe 15 or so years since YouTube began as this little site where you just post wacky videos to being huge business. The first thing is that it is a great way to express yourself. As we're going to talk about over this presentation, there's many different kinds of content that you can put out, and is something that is pretty much available to anyone. Thanks to smartphones and even just how much technology has improved, you don't need a lot today to get started. But there are things that you can do to improve things and, of course, make yourself look more professional or help with your content. And of course, the major reason is that if you do become big enough, this can become a career or kind of a side gig or part of your business to help earn some money. I can tell you right now that YouTube is certainly not paying for everything that I do right now, but it is a major part of how I promote myself. And I do earn a little bit of money from it along with all the other projects that I do these days. So when it comes to being a virtual person or being online like this, the two major platforms as of right now are YouTube and Twitch. Now, there were other platforms, and there's still discussions of more that are trying to compete with these two. But for the purpose of our presentation today and recording this right now in 2022, these are the two games in town if you want to have your own online career along these lines. So because this presentation is focused on being on YouTube, we're not going to spend too much time on streaming, but it's still very related to these two, especially since you can do streaming on YouTube now. And it's important to point out the pros and cons of both, because if you try to do both the same way, it's not going to be as productive for you, especially in terms of your business. So we'll start with the streamer since that is the quicker, or at least quicker for our purposes today. Being a streamer means you're going to be doing more live than recorded. So streamers will typically stream for minimum probably 4 to 6 hours, and some will easily go 8 to 10 hours a day. They will take breaks, usually 1 or 2 during the day, but oftentimes they are going to be on for most of that time. When you're looking at being a streamer, it's more about being like an entertaining channel on television. So whatever you're doing at whatever time of the day, you should be on, you should be reacting to people. And streaming has been open to just about anything. There's been plenty of content from playing video games, doing cooking, gardening, you name it. There's probably a channel for it on Twitch. In terms of generating money, this is done through people tipping you. On Twitch, it's called using bits. You can use advertising or getting sponsors. And as I said, it's about being more on than it is kind of preparing stuff beforehand. And in terms of highest paid, in 2021, that record went to, of course, Ninja, who you may have heard from being one of the bigger names in Fortnite from a few years ago. He earned just about $16.8 million. Now, of course, probably for you, me, and for everyone else watching, we're probably not going to be hitting that amount anytime soon. Now, the major downsides of streaming is that you are competing with everyone else because your content is live. It means that you're competing with everyone else who's also live. And for most people, they can't watch 5, 6 different streams at a time, much like how you're not going to watch 3, 4 different TV shows at the same time. So if they're not watching you, they're going to be watching someone else, and they may not even know about you. One of the bigger things about streaming is that it does require you to be on. And I'm going to use some air quotes here. That on means you have to be reacting, you have to be engaging to people. You can't just be sitting like this and not say anything for 4 to 6 hours. And it can become very demanding. And if you're not used to being in front of a camera or being in front of an audience for that amount of time, it can be very stressful. And one of the hardest things about Twitch and about streaming in general is that unless you have a gimmick or you're doing something special or unique, it becomes harder to have that impact because, well, everyone can do it. There are kids doing streaming. There are even grandparents who are streaming themselves, even playing video games. There may be a few who can even give me a run for my money in terms of some of the games that they play. So for our purpose, let's focus more on being a YouTuber. Now, one of the big advantages is that there is more variety in terms of content. You can do literally everything. There are channels dedicated to best gardening tips, to cats doing weird things, to even some of the best sidewalks or most impressive sidewalks that are around the world. Because you're not going to be as on compared to everyone else, this is great for people who are more prefer to be in front of a camera when there's no one watching, or even just record their own audio and use stuff like animated characters or stills to be the background for your own voice. YouTube's algorithm is both you will live and die by it. But the algorithm itself is designed to promote your content to people who are looking for similar. And if you do things right, it can do some of the work for you. But as we're going to talk about later on, you are going to have to kind of feed it the correct information. And the record for highest paid YouTuber in 2021 went for 54 million to the channel Mr. Beast, who does a lot of incredibly expensive and extravagant content here. However, with that said, there are some cons of being on YouTube. It can be hard at the start to determine what people want. Again, there is an infinite amount of content and infinite amount of ways of making it. And one of the things for you in particular, especially when you're starting out, is that you need to figure out what you want to do. Not only that, but you also need to figure out what you're able to do, because the amount or the quality of the content has increased. And what people come to expect on YouTube changes almost year by year. About 4 or 5 years ago, everyone was saying, "Oh, you need to make content super short. It has to be, between 3 to 5 minutes. Don't do anything large." And now YouTube's like, "No, we like large content. We want you to put out more meatier stuff that we can attach more ads to, that gets people to stay and watch longer." And if you try to chase this stuff, it can become very hard to stand out because that's what everyone's going to be doing. And one of the big things is that while you're not going to be live for a lot of time during the day, you're going to have to spend that time doing other things, promoting your content, editing it, making sure that you're looking for the next big thing. And it can get very demanding. And I'll have some tips that I've had to learn the hard way later on in this talk. So let's start with the basic thing about content. What do you want to do on YouTube? Again, being with what I do with Game Wisdom, my content focuses on video games and game development. But what we're going to discuss is going to be universal to anyone watching this. When it comes to YouTube and making content for it, there are essentially three broad categories. The first is what I like to call the first responders. This is the content that's aimed at talking about whatever is relevant right now. So this is going to be news of the day, reacting to whatever kind of videos or TV shows or movies, unboxing videos, news, drama. This is about being completely on to or being dialed into what's happening at this moment. So major examples of this content would be people like Philip DeFranco, sorry about that, and Keemstar. Now, for this kind of content, you're not going to be spending as much time editing. It's more about you presenting information, which means that you just have to get a video out about whatever is currently topical. Because of that, YouTube likes this content because it's something that a lot of people are going to be searching for. So if you're the first one, or if you're the one to break the news or be the biggest one, you can expect to get a lot of views and hopefully a lot of people interested in that. For a lot of these channels, it is sometimes just somebody sitting in front of a computer with a website looking at whatever is the hot news and reporting on it. And it means that there's less requirement to do fancy editing and pre and post production on this kind of content. With that said, while this content certainly earns high views, it's a lot harder to get people to subscribe because everyone can do this. And for any piece of news out there, you can expect to see a few dozen, if not a few hundred people all trying to be the first to report on this. And it leads to this endless chase of, well, oh no, something broke at 2 o'clock in the morning. Quick, we gotta get a video out for it. And a lot of people kind of have a very negative view on this. It's kind of like tabloid or trash content to some, because you're not really, in the most part, adding to these stories. You're just kind of reporting on it and trying to get views and interest from it. So for the second kind of content, we have what's called personality driven. So this is where it's about the person or persons in front of the camera, and the content that they put out is kind of second. It's about you care about what this person has to say on whatever topic. Could be, again, getting beauty tips, cooking tips, video game advice, whatever. But the content here is going to be uniquely developed and driven by these personalities. So examples that I know would be stuff like Angry Video Game Nerd, Channel Awesome, Angry Joe, Markiplier, PewDiePie, anyone that you instinctively know the person as opposed to the channel itself. Now, this, in terms of advantages, the big one is that because people are coming to support you yourself, as opposed to your content being the primary driver, this is often really great to earn subscribers. For myself, I know that my content isn't going to be super far reaching. I develop very much a niche in terms of game design and analytical stuff. But the people who subscribe, the people who follow me, the people who are right now on my Discord channel and follow me on Twitter, I know they're going to be fans for a very long time. They want to support me, be it through donations or just helping me out, getting the word about my content. And that means that they're going to stick around longer compared to someone who's just here to watch, let's say, a wacky video and they don't care about the person there. Because this content is uniquely driven, this is how you build up your online persona, your online portfolio. And for a lot of the YouTubers in this space who blow up, it does go on to present other opportunities, be it sponsored content or even doing stuff, having their own marketing or memorabilia, t-shirts, clothing, whatever that you can buy. But this is a great foot in the door if you do it right and you do blow up to other avenues. And of course, because it is about the personality, once you kind of get settled, it's not as competitively driven. Because again, people come to see you. They come to see what you are trying to do. So for me, again, I don't care what Markiplier does. I don't care what Angry Joe does. Their content is separate from mine. It also means that with the stuff that I put out, there's a sense of it being evergreen, which is a kind of a journalism or writing term to mean that it's content that's always good. It's never going to be dated by what's happening in the world or what other people are doing. Because I focus on game design, which in of itself is kind of a niche part of video games, it means that someone can find a video that I made 4 or 5 years ago, and it's still relevant and it's still going to be useful to them. I get messages from people, they come on while I'm streaming saying, hey, I just watched this video you did in 2018. I really just wanted to stop in and say hi. And you don't get that with first responder content. Because again, the top, best clothing or best t-shirts in 2016 is not really going to be relevant in 2022. With that said, it takes a lot of work and it's also very hard to get off the ground. Again, people like Angry Joe, AVGN here, they've been doing this for, I think, like 10 plus years now. I know Angry Video Game Nerd, that was like 2007, 2008. Like, he's been around for a while. And because of it, it's a lot harder, just like with everything we're going to talk about, to get started, day one today. You need to really present yourself and present your content in the best possible light. And hopefully with the tips I give you, it will kind of let you have a leg up compared to other people getting started. And again, you are going to be the focus, or your persona is going to be the focus. And that can be hard for some people. For myself, I don't have a persona. I don't have a personality. I don't, change who I am in real life when I put on the content here. So that does limit me in terms of, I think, a wide audience, but also means I'm more genuine with what I do. And again, that's what my fans and supporters have come for. And again, depending upon your personality and content, it can be hard to generate interest. As I said, with the stuff that I do, I am not expecting to hit 1 million subscribers this year. My content is very much on the slow burn because it's just a part of what I do with Game Wisdom. And for you watching this, you should also be prepared that you're not going to make a video and then the next day you're going to have 5 million subscribers and everyone demanding, to do reports with you or interviews. The movie stuff does not happen in real life. Now, the third kind of content is what I like to call the one-offs. This is content that's meant to be very specific. It's there to answer a specific question or only be watched one time. So music videos, trailers to movies or TV shows, compilations, things that are just there to deliver a very specific piece of information would fall into this category. So for this kind of content, the channel and the person behind it really aren't the focus. It's about you answering a question or need. So an example would be how to change my toilet, how to clean gutters, what is the best, what are the best iPhones on the market right now? This is stuff that you're going to watch, you're going to learn, and you're not going to really go back to that video again unless you forgot that information. So the advantage of this is that it is not personality driven at all. In fact, for a lot of these channels, the only things that they may need to see of you could be like an arm or, you doing work. And because of that, there's not really direct competition. No one has cornered the market on house cleaning videos, at least not that I'm aware of. And this can be a very low cost, very easy way to kind of get started. However, this is incredibly niche, super duper niche in terms of the content. Again, if you put out the right video, a lot of people will come and watch. Most likely, they're not going to subscribe because a lot of people aren't going to subscribe for, best toilet videos every single week. And this is, again, going to be very hard to get discovered because it is focused on whatever that specific topic is. For, again, the first responders, they know that people are going to be searching for whatever is going to be in the news that day. Most people aren't going to be searching for best desks or cutest clothes for cats every single day. So if you're trying to build this as a business, if you're trying to make this as a long-term serious topic or a serious part of your life, one-offs are probably not where you want to focus on. So with that said, let's talk about the equipment and setup. So we're going to go over some of the basic things that you should be looking at in terms of setting up for making videos, editing content, etc., etc. So hardware. Hardware is one of those things that it seems like there's a never-ending amount of it out there. Now, when you're starting out, you don't really need a lot. But if you want to be professional, if you want to try to add more to your content, you're going to have to look into this stuff, and it can get very expensive. So the first thing you're going to need is a recording device. You need some way to record your voice. Now, one of the cheapest options is a lot of webcams will have a built-in microphone. It is going to be very cheap and low quality. It will oftentimes sound like you're in a submarine. For myself here, if you can see it, I'm using kind of like a studio or it's a low-end studio mic. So it's going to be a kind of a higher quality than a lot of the ones out there, but it's still not, the top quality. And this mic ran me about $300, I believe, when I bought it. This is something that at some point, if you want to take things seriously, you should consider investing in a mic. Now, there's other things that go with your recording or with the microphone as well. If you look on the left, some have like a stand, or they'll have a stand like with the Blue Yeti mic at the top. You also have the option of kind of a boom setup. That is, you will attach the microphone to like a little arm, and it will kind of be moved as close to your mouth as possible. And that's oftentimes the most ideal setup, simply because the closer the microphone is, the better the quality. And on the bottom left, that is kind of a pop filter. So your puzz and your buzz. So it doesn't like pop and make that loud noise. And I have that on this as well. Now, for your camera, this again depends heavily on the content that you want to make. If you just want to have, a animated character or stills, you don't need this at all. And for a lot of people, again, smartphones these days are arguably even more powerful than many of the first and even current gen cameras. Unless you want to go all in or go higher up and get like a broadcaster's camera or an actual video camera that you can upload or a high def camera like that. The camera I'm using right now is a 1080p Logitech. It is not the best camera on the market by any means, and it is something that I'm considering maybe updating to get a little bit fancier around here. But the beauty with everyone having access to smartphones is that you can just use your smartphone to record your video. And like I said, for smartphones today, their cameras are amazingly high tech, especially like some of the newer ones that automatically have HD and super high def along those lines. Now, another thing you should be looking at some point is having a recording room or a space to record yourself. So this is where you're going to look into stuff like soundproofing. I have a little bit of soundproofing foam set up behind me, but I can always add more to my sides. I'm actually going to be changing. I have a window to my right, which you can't see, obviously, but I'm going to be getting a better shade that does a better job of canceling or absorbing sound. So there's less of an echo as you're talking. You should be also looking at getting proper lighting and even just having a place you can set things up. Now, this is definitely more on the moderate to advanced side. If you are just starting out, you shouldn't be immediately rushing to build your own little recording studio. And you can do little things to help out. Soundproofing, I think I spend like $15, $20 for a pack of it. Now, of course, getting better lighting, getting noise canceling curtains, that gets expensive. But you should, if you are going to be recording yourself or recording in a specific spot, to make those preparations once you start to get serious about it. And you can see this person is using a separate or actual professional video camera to record themselves, as opposed to a webcam like I'm doing right now. Now, with that said, there's always more, I should say, that you can get for hardware. If you're going to be recording like older video games and stuff long before the age of streaming and HD, you're going to need to get yourself a capture card, which you plug kind of the audio and video to the card. The card gets plugged into your computer and then just translates that footage to HD. Some of these cards can be quite expensive, but it is an option if you want to go the retro game route. There are tablets for drawing and doing art like that, and the ubiquitous green screen, so you can have an actual backdrop behind you as opposed to wherever you live is, or wherever you live have access to. It's something that I've thought about, but for my content, I don't know if it's really needed. But again, depending upon what you do, you may want to have like a fancy backdrop, maybe outer space or whatever you want, as opposed to just your living arrangement. Now, software is another thing that can be never ending. For any task that you can imagine that's out there, there is probably a piece of software that will do it. The big differences between software is going to be the utility that it will give you and the cost of it. And there's always probably going to be a cheaper option for something that you need, but it may not be as powerful. And depending upon what your needs are for it, you can use those cheaper or free options. Now, Tubebuddy is something that you can use as a kind of a start to give you useful analytics about YouTube, popular tags, how your videos are doing, that kind of thing. It isn't as important once you kind of get big enough for it, but it can be useful when you're getting started to see what other people are doing. There's a free version of it, and you can also spend to kind of get the more professional model. Now, one of the big advantages of learning software is that this can also improve your own skills. And if you want to do stuff outside of YouTube, such as editing videos or putting together stuff like that, this could be a great way to kind of get that knowledge before you actually start going all in. So while I take a quick drink. If you're going to do anything about recording, you are going to need recording software. And all recording software these days can also be used for streaming. I use OBS, which you can see on the left. There's XSplit. And how this stuff works is that you will set up different inputs, whether it's a web camera, your own voice, a video game, whatever. Hit the record button and it will record everything that you've set up in wherever you have set it up at. You can also, in advanced ways, set up to notify or play a fancy graphic if people donate to you. You can have different filters, different effects, but this is just about recording your own content. There's additional ones. If you have an NVIDIA graphics card, they have what's called the GeForce Experience or Shadow Play, that the card itself can record and stream for you. But this is kind of a lower quality option. If you want to do streaming professionally or recording, it's better to get your own standalone software. And most of the software, at least the ones that most people use, are free, that you will not have to spend any money to use them. If you want to strictly do audio editing and nothing else, Audacity is kind of the bigger example or the biggest known example of this. So this is software that is specifically for editing audio. If you're going to do anything with video, with graphics, with art, this is not going to be for you. And for me, I've kind of stepped away from using Audacity simply because I do a lot of podcasting, video casting, that kind of thing, where I want to edit both the audio and the video at the same time. Now, video editing is oftentimes where it can get very expensive. Depending upon the software you're using, it could be anywhere from being free to being a monthly subscription. I use Adobe Premiere simply because I decided to get, the biggest example out there, but there are multitudes of smaller and cheaper examples. Windows used to have just a Windows Movie Maker. I don't know if that app is still available on Windows 10 or 11, but that was what I used just starting out. It is the most barest of the bare bones. But typically, if you are going to start to invest in video-based content, you're going to have to learn video editing. And again, the biggest difference when it comes to video editors is the utility. Adobe Premiere, for me, does far more than I think I would ever actually need, and probably for most of you watching this. But the options are there if you want to go big or if you really want to do like professional editing. For everything else, there are smaller options that, again, if you're just want to compile video footage, make it, show it on a timeline, you can do that relatively cheap. But if you want to do like fancier stuff using graphics, transitioning, stuff along those lines, then you probably have to invest in a more professional video software. But this is another thing that you can look up on YouTube because there are people who have made videos as to, the best free software for just about anything that you need. Now, the thing about stuff like Premiere and video editing is that it does not create anything that would go with it. So if you want to have custom graphics, custom art, anything along those lines, you're going to need software specifically for that. And this is where your own skill is really going to be a factor here. I use Photoshop for making a lot of my thumbnails, which you're going to see in the next few slides. But there are people who have actual art programs as well. After Effects is actually what you use to create the content, while Photoshop lets you, put stuff that's already been created into an attractive package. This is something that if you are not good at yourself, it may be worth it to hire an artist who can put stuff together for you. And there are even people who are professional video editors who you just give them a bunch of content, they'll create all the graphics, they'll do all the editing for you. Now, of course, this can get expensive depending upon what you're doing and the amount of work you're putting out. But for a lot of streamers, who I'm talking like professional 8 to 10 hour a day streamers, they will oftentimes just delegate this to editors so they focus on the content, the editors focus on making it into something that is attractive. So let's talk about the point that I'm sure every one of you has probably been thinking about. How do you make money doing all this? Because you kind of need that money coming in if you want to be doing this full time. For smaller channels and for those who have a dedicated fan base, they will oftentimes earn their money through donations. People who will spend money on super chats or bits while you're streaming. They may donate to a PayPal or a Patreon. And of course, you'll earn money through ad revenue once you are big enough on YouTube. Now, if you're going to do ad revenue this way, you need to set up what's called a Google AdSense account. So they're going to need information such as your social security, your legal name. If you're under 18, I believe you have a parental guardian who does this with you as well. And what happens is once you are set up, when you make a video or you post something, you can set up YouTube to display ads. If people click on the ads or they watch it, you'll earn money. Now, I'll talk a little bit more about the caveats of that in the next few slides. One of the best things is to get a managed partnership, which is you work with a media or an ad company. They will deliver the ads to your channel as opposed to YouTube, and they will pay you as well as kind of give you protection and advice as well. Now, this is for kind of the bigger channels. If you are just starting out, if you don't even have 10,000 subscribers, most likely you're not going to be getting a partnership anytime soon. But if you do become big enough, this is oftentimes that kind of next step up in terms of earning money. With that said, however, there is no guaranteed success to doing all this. And it's something that for everyone watching this, you need to learn that just making videos daily, just doing like a wacky thing from a camera is not immediately going to earn you millions and millions of dollars. And there are a lot of people who try to do this and they just kind of burn themselves out. And doing YouTube long term can become an ordeal in on itself. Now, the challenges of earning money is that if you're basing this on ads, it is going to be dependent on people who are actually watching those ads. If they have an ad block or they just click through really fast, you don't earn money. And ad revenue along these lines really only starts to add up when you have probably thousands of views on a video. To give you an example, for me, I went from earning pennies a month, and that's not a slip of tongue. I was earning pennies a month in terms of ad revenue. These days, I earn usually like $50 to $80 a month on my ads. Again, I am under 10,000 subscribers, so that is not horrible, but it's not great either. To earn serious money, and we're talking like hundreds if not thousands of dollars a month on ad revenue, your videos need to be earning, or you should be getting like easily 20 to 50,000 views per video, probably even more than that. This is why for channels like PewDiePie, who one of his videos can make 1 million plus views, he is definitely set in terms of ad revenue. Now, one of the biggest changes that has happened over the past 6-7 years has been YouTube really clamping down on how to earn money on this platform. There are a lot of issues with people making very racy, very polarizing, and sometimes very hurtful content that they were getting ad revenue for. And when the ads and the sponsors heard about that, they pulled their money. This is what led to what a lot of people have dubbed the adpocalypse. So to counter that, YouTube has made it far more harder and conditional to get to the point where you can start earning money. You need to, I believe, have at least 100 subscribers. You must have, I believe, 10,000 lifetime views on your channel. And they make it a lot harder. So you can't just immediately create a channel and you're earning money through YouTube. And this was one of the harder things for a lot of people starting out. I got in just before they did this. So for me, it was literally start a channel, start an AdSense. Hey, I have ads coming onto my videos. And whenever there's people who make very controversial content, it can come back to affect everyone if ad sponsors pull out of YouTube, which is also why it's very bad to try and do or focus entirely on YouTube, especially since when you're starting out, YouTube is not a job. Even if you spend 8 to 10 hours a day making videos, doing social media, and so on, this is not a job in the sense that you are earning an hourly wage for it. One day you could earn several $100s from a video. The next day you may earn $1. And again, YouTube does not become a job unless A, you are serious about it, and B, your channel blows up enough to get to that point. So I would argue once you get to 10,000 subscribers, if you get to 100,000 subscribers, then YouTube is officially a part or is officially a job for you. But when you're still young or when you still only have like 10 subscribers, 20 subscribers, this is more of a side gig. And it's important to understand that. So let's talk about tips. Because one of the best things for you watching this is that you get to learn all the mistakes that I made starting out, and then you don't have to make them, which will make it far easier for you to grow than it was for me over the past 6 years. So let's talk about thumbnails. This is the very first thing people will see and oftentimes will be the major factor in whether or not they're even going to watch your content. When it comes to thumbnails, there's 3 things you want to keep in mind. The branding, which is what is the unique identifier so that people know that this is a video for you or from you. Some people will just have themselves. They'll have them in like wacky faces or pose like this, like stuff like that. And that's their entire branding. Your video or your thumbnail should have high clarity. It should be easy to see what is happening in that video. You don't want like a collage of just random things thrown about. You want people to be able to see this thumbnail and know, okay, this is what this person's talking about. And of course, that should also be related to your topic. If you're making a video about the best wedding cakes, you shouldn't have a picture of monster trucks, colliding into each other. And so it is time for my favorite part of this presentation. We're going to go on a trip down memory lane and talk about all the thumbnails or the styles I've developed and the good and bad of them. So this is the very first style thumbnail I did for Game Wisdom. So in terms of branding, it is on point. You see Game Wisdom, you see my treasure chest logo. In terms of clarity, it's very easy to see. And of course, you know what the topic is going to be. It's going to be on ludodissonance, and it's a critical thought. However, this is not a good thumbnail. And the reason why is that this has nothing in terms of a hook. If you see an entire page of nothing but this kind of thumbnail, your eyes will start to get tired and it just doesn't look at all appealing. So then I shifted things a little bit. I decided to put like a banner, or we have my kind of flag over there on the left. Again, you have really good branding. It's very easy to make things out. But again, it's the same problem. All your thumbnails look alike. There is nothing that is differentiating one from the other. So then I decided to add a background image to go with that. Unfortunately, while this has a little bit better in terms of appeal, it's less professional because the image itself is just kind of in there and everything else is being superimposed on top. So it doesn't look like a lot of time has been spent making this thumbnail. And even then, with the text, it's kind of getting in the way or it's being drowned out by that background image. So then I went to this. And now in this way, the appeal is definitely better. We have images that go with the topic, but the problem is that there is no branding. There's no way to tell that this is a video from me. This could be just from anyone on YouTube. And while it was good, I kind of moved away from it because, again, a lot of what I do is about being professional. So then I went with this. This is when I started getting to my weird, kind of very abstract phase, which I've kind of been stuck in since, of trying to make an image that's like, what the heck is that? And try to convince you to click on it. Branding is okay. You can see my logo up here. The text now has a box or a transparent box, so it stands out without blocking the image. It's not bad. Again, a lot of what you're going to learn about YouTube is you should always be improving, always be figuring out things you can do to make things better or easier for you. So I kind of move things around like this. And this is when I think things started to improve image-wise, that this is a very distinct image. You can tell what the topic is. And I think it certainly worked. But kind of as we move into modern, or what I do these days, is we now have the logo up here as a form of branding. We have a banner along the bottom, and the image takes up this entire screen. Of course, we have words down there. And one of the big things is that words are your enemy when it comes to a very popular or very appealing thumbnail. You want to have as few words as possible. And again, you can see how I've been trying to make things more interesting to look at. And then this is one of my more current thumbnails. I removed critical thought because I didn't really need that for the actual topic. And I'm actually going to be improving things further as I want to actually make this banner different colors to go with the different categories or kinds of content that I have on my channel. So when I do a video game spotlight these days, I use kind of like an orange or like a bronze tint for this. For my live shows, I use a kind of darker green. But again, it's all about making something that looks distinctive, that people will immediately know it's from you, and that they know what the topic is going to be. Now, video length is another thing. You want to respect the audience's time. And I had a little video, though, which I won't play, that I made when I first did this, which I'm not sure if Zoom will even hear the audio. But one of the biggest things and one of the biggest tips I can give you, a video should only be as long as you can keep it interesting. If you can make an hour-long video that is on every second, go for it. If your video can only last 2 minutes, make a 2-minute video. You do not want to pad out your videos. You also don't want to be doing stuff like that kind of thing. Every second is like a minute, and every minute is like an hour. So if you cannot keep people entertained for long stretches of time, or your content is trying to be padded out, people are going to click off. And that's the worst thing that you can do. For my major videos, my critical thought videos, I typically keep them about 14 to 20 minutes because I focus on a topic itself. So if I wanted to make them shorter, I would focus on less. I wouldn't want to try and, speed up my voice, cut out things that were important. And this is something that you want to figure out as early into your YouTube career as possible. How long do I want to make my content? Because the longer you make it also means the longer it's going to take to edit. Typically for me, it will take about double the time of the video to edit it, depending upon how much I want to do with it. especially if I want to do like a very edited piece where I have a lot of content that's going to be fitting what I'm talking. Because I also have to research that content, make sure I have the right videos, and it does add up. Now, you also need to be active. YouTube does not like channels that only uploads, once a year, once every 2 to 3 months. You should get consistent with your content. And I'll have some more tips about that in a few more slides. One of the biggest things is you want to plan ahead. You don't want to be making video content the day of that you want to post it. And you should also try to get onto a schedule, because you're going to be doing this long term. It becomes harder and harder, I think, to kind of try to do everything spur of the moment. When I started on YouTube, I was making, editing, and posting videos every day. I don't think I could do that these days. I think I may flip out if I start doing that. We also want to engage on social media. You want to be able to promote your content, have places for people to find you, get in touch with you. I heavily use Twitter as how I promote myself these days. And when it comes to being on YouTube, you need to play the algorithm, or you need to use that to the best of your ability. Because the algorithm is going to be how people who aren't your fans are going to find you. And if you do this right, this will be a huge shortcut and will help you gain followers and gain notoriety faster than if you choose to ignore this. For every video, you need to look at the title of it, the thumbnail, what tags you use, and the description. And to give everyone here an example, I'm going to share another screen. Give me 1 second here. You're going to see things cut out for a second here, because I'm going to show you my actual YouTube interface. Give me 1 second. There we go. So you should be seeing my YouTube dashboard right now. So this is what I see and use every day for my content. You can see, of course, my current subscribers. And what I want to show you is if we go over here, I'm going to click on one of my, or this was a video that I posted yesterday, or this was a live stream that we did. From the top, you want to have a title that is catchy, that gets people interested in clicking on it. Now, the first 9 words, 9 or 10 words that you're going to type here, that's what people are going to see. The rest of it, you can put tags and other things that will kind of clue YouTube in as to what your video is going to be about so that they can promote it. Again, people are not going to be seeing this much when it comes to when they're scrolling on YouTube itself. So I can actually do maybe one more. You only have 100 characters, so there's not a lot that you can fit here. The description, of course, is going to be what this video is going to be about. You should use some of the words that you used up here in your description. So if it's going to be about game design or game dev, you should put that here. We have important links. I've also streamlined all my kind of follow information. So this is where you can find my books, sites, my major stuff. If we scroll down, you can see where I pasted the thumbnail. And then down here are the tags. So the tags themselves are going to be the ways that YouTube will market your video to other similar videos. So we have some of the major ones: game design, game development, best video games of all time. I'm going to do worst video games of all time because maybe someone is searching for that. And you have a limit of 500 characters. You typically want to fill this with as many keywords or tags that are relevant to your video. So again, I can do video games, video games, video game, game design, game development, the whole shebang. Because as long as they are relevant to the video, you want to have them here. And of course, make sure that you save. And this is the stuff that you're going to be doing for each and every video that you're going to do on YouTube. So let me stop sharing this and let me get back to the presentation. There we go. Now, the current trends are very important. As my voice is dying, 1 second. Because YouTube will change. As the market changes, as the kind of content people want to watch change, this is something that you want to keep in mind. For right now in 2022, as we said earlier, YouTube likes videos on the longer side. They don't want 30-second videos, 2-minute long videos. Right now, if you want to put an ad or have multiple ads on your videos, your video must be at minimum exactly 8 minutes long. If it's 7:59, it will not get multiple ads. So that's something to keep in mind. You don't want to be putting out tons and tons of content each day because YouTube wants, if YouTube wants to promote you, it wants to see that your videos and your content are doing well. If you put out 20 videos a day and let's say people only watch 2 or 3 of them, well, YouTube's going to think, well, people don't like this channel or the information isn't that relevant, so we're not going to promote that. You should, at minimum, or to get a good foot in the door, be trying to put out 1 piece of video or 1 piece of content a day. If you want to do something that is very highly edited, something that is, super high production value, if you can do that once a week or once a month, that is also another option. And when we talk about high quality, we're talking about completely original content, all the editing, original art, and there are channels that have made a living off of doing just that. You also want to make sure that if people are commenting, you want to like those comments. You want to, this is where you kind of have to like game the algorithm. But it is something that you're forced to do, especially if you're starting out, because you want YouTube to promote your content. And the only way they're going to promote that is if they see that people like it. So if somebody leaves a comment on a video, you want to heart it, you want to pin it, you even want to respond to it. You want to drive engagement. It's why if you've watched any YouTuber over the past 5 years, they will always say at least one time in the video, like the video, subscribe, comment, that kind of thing, because they want to drive that engagement. You should always be improving when it comes to the content. Once you kind of get into a groove, once you know what you want to do and you're comfortable with it, look for ways to improve your process. Maybe setting up a schedule for editing, maybe getting into the habit of a set day, and I'll talk more about in the next few slides. Little things that you can improve will matter because if this is something you're going to be doing day in and day out, making it easier for you will also make it less stressful and less like work that you have to do. Now, here's a very important point, and this is something for, I think, a lot for the kids who may be watching this live recorded. When you start to blow up on YouTube or Twitch, you are not going to be anonymous anymore. People will start looking you up. They will start talking about you, talking to you. In a lot of cases, they may leave you nasty comments. They may say hurtful things. And it's important to understand how much anonymity matters. If you are starting out, oftentimes, unless you are properly prepared, it's not good to immediately show yourself, show your contacts and stuff along those lines. When I started doing YouTube, that was in 2016. So I was, I guess, oh man, I guess I was like 31. Again, like time doesn't mean much to me anymore because I'm so busy these days. But I was an adult. I was already, well aware of who I am and who I want to be. If you're a child, you're a parent watching this with a child who's interested in doing YouTube or Twitch, you want to set things up to moderate. These platforms have tools to block hurtful content, spam content, things along those lines. And it's important to pay attention to who's following them, if anyone is talking to them off their respective social channels. But this is something that you have to be ready for it or you're not. Because once you kind of pull that plug or reveal yourself, that's it forever. You cannot change or you can't go back into hiding once people see your face. Some channels have big face reveals. I just did that on my very first video. And if you continue to do this, who you are online will become a part of your portfolio for better or worse. If you become known as, someone who curses and screams and says hateful things, that's going to follow you into real life. And there are a lot of jobs these days that are very mindful of your online and social portfolio. And it's also why for people who do kind of become infamous in this space, they go all in. Because a normal job will probably not hire you if you're known for screaming and yelling at people. And it has led to a lot of people becoming blacklisted, not just on YouTube or social media, but in, a day-to-day life. If you become famous for something that is very illegal or very bad, that's going to follow you for a very long time. And it's important to try and stay grounded. Again, I do not consider myself a celebrity or put on airs like that. And people have resonated with that. And I think it does help you in terms of long term of not viewing yourself as being this always wacky or fake persona. Of course, the example there is Dr. Disrespect, who I'm sure for a lot of kids watching this, they are well acquainted with who that is. For the adults, I don't know. But it's important to understand that it can lead to burnout because this can become a never-ending job, especially if you're trying to make this as your business. And the more you work on it, the more stressful it becomes. And if everything starts piling up, it can lead to mental health issues. There have been people who have unfortunately suffered because of that. And it's important to balance your work and your life because you don't want to kind of have all your eggs in one basket, at least not unless you are big enough. Again, if YouTube is bringing in thousands of dollars for you, if you are able to make an entire living off of YouTube, that's a different story. But until it gets to that point, it's important to balance this out with everything else. I do not keep all my eggs in one basket. I write on Game Wisdom. I have my books. I do library talks as what you're all watching right now. If YouTube goes down tomorrow, it is not the end of the world for me. But there are people out there that if it does go down, they are in deep trouble. And it's important to balance all of this out. So it's time for a news section for this presentation. These are tips straight from this Josh. One of the biggest things I can tell you is get on a schedule in terms of content creation and content editing because it makes it so much easier in terms of planning out your day. What I do right now is I may record some videos here and there during the week if I feel the need, but I've turned Sundays into my editing day. My goal on Sunday is to get all the content that I want for the next week done. Because when it's done, that means I don't need to worry about that for the next 7 days. And that, believe me, is a huge load off of your shoulders when you can do that. Don't be afraid to miss a day. Again, I said that YouTube likes consistency. They like you to do stuff on a fixed schedule. But don't stress out if you don't have content for a day. Because YouTube, as we've said, it's more about quality as opposed to quantity. If you can't come up with an amazing video 7 days a week, don't do it 7 days a week. For me these days, I try to have 5 videos, Monday through Friday, and then kind of take off Saturday and Sunday. When I started again, I was trying to make videos every single day, and I was feeling the burnout. To give you an example, this past week, I've been covering independent games on my channel, so I did 7 videos in 7 days, and by the end of it, I was really feeling drained. So try to get onto a schedule that you know that you can keep, and it will help you out tremendously. And one of the biggest things is that you can't cheap out on your content. And what I mean by that is you can't just take a 4-hour stream of yourself, upload it to the channel, call it a day. You need to edit that. For my live shows, I edit kind of the pre-stream because a lot of the stuff that we talk about is highly focused from beginning to end. But one of the things that I do on a second channel is I archive all my game streams. So instead of just taking that raw footage and loading it up there, I will cut up on game by game. It takes more time, but again, people don't want to see cheap content anymore. There's plenty of it out there. So the better or the quicker that you can get onto a schedule that you can make the best content that you can do it and keep at it, it will set you up to make things far less stressful. And it may not matter when you first start on YouTube, but believe me, if you are getting into months or years of content creation, you will thank yourself for doing that early. So in conclusion, don't be distracted by people like Mr. Beast or PewDiePie or Markiplier, who can make wacky videos and they get millions and millions of views. They're internationally known at this point. Oh, it takes a lot to make YouTube or Twitch work these days. And not everyone is going to be able to do this full time. And don't think that if you're not having 10 million subscribers that you are failing. If you are putting out content that people are enjoying, if you're able to earn money that lets you continue to do this, that is better than what a lot of people have done and have failed on this platform. And in today's world, it's better to be yourself than try to put on a fake persona or try to, rip people off when it comes to your content. And people will resonate with that. Again, I have people who have become friends of mine simply because they found my content, they wanted to support me because they believe in what I do and they know that I'm genuine with it. And it takes time. I started again in 2016, and it took a long time to get 800 subscribers, but then it took less time to get 1,000. And then now I'm getting close to 10,000. And once that happens, it will be interesting to see how quickly I will grow from that point on. Because once you get to 10,000, YouTube starts to realize, hey, maybe we should promote this channel more. I'll also get my fancy YouTube plaque to congratulate me, which, who knows, maybe by the next time I'm doing this presentation, will be somewhere behind me. But with that said, do we have any questions from the audience about everything that I've said? Because I know I've certainly have said a lot in the last hour or so.
Yeah, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in the Q&A.
I can certainly expand on any topic, or if anyone has any thoughts, let me know. Here's another impromptu tip. Have water and liquid near you when you do a lot of talking, because your voice will die.
Right.
So I always have 2 drinks near me.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Well, if no one has any questions, I can show off where people can follow me and all that. And then I can throw over to you, Tim, if you want to have, any wrap-up things for the library.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for watching. If this does go up on the library's YouTube channel, of course, do the liking, subscribing, and commenting over there will help them out. If you want to follow me and my work, game-wisdom.com is my main site. Game Wisdom is my YouTube channel. I now have 2 channels. One is my main, and the second is my stream archives. And again, my content is focused on game design and game development. So if you have any interest in video games, playing them, learning about them, definitely subscribe over there. If you want to follow me on Twitter, if you want to ask me any questions, you can find me at JW Bycer. my DMs are always open. So, feel free to message me. Tell me if you like the presentation, you hate it, anything like that. I will be more than happy to listen. And if you want to check out my books on design, these are the 4 that I have out right now. 20 Essential Games to Study is my kind of intro level. It is about being inspired by games and looking for some to kind of learn from. And then the Game Design Deep Dive series is a top to bottom look at the psychology and methodology of these genres, as well as what goes into the design and mechanics of them. So if you ever wanted to build a game in a platformer style, a roguelike, or whatever, these are the books for you. I have my next book on free-to-play and mobile games due out in August, and then I'm going to be writing ones on RPGs and deck builders in the rest of this year. So I will be very busy. But that is it for me. So I will throw it over to you, Tim, to, I guess, take us to the end.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Josh. Thank you so much for all the useful and helpful information. I hope you'll take a few moments to complete a quick survey about the program. It'll help us greatly in planning more great programs for teens at Jmrl. I'm putting the link into the chat box right now. And if you have time to fill that out, that will be great. One more opportunity for some questions before we wrap up. So let me just pause for a minute to see if there are any questions before we finish. And if there are no more questions, please join me in thanking Josh Bycer for his wonderful presentation today. Thank you so much for attending, and we hope you have a great weekend and a great summer.
Have a great night, everybody.
Okay, thank you.